Recap from last week. Not everybody was there. Want to put this in so everybody's on the same page when we come back. This will be screencast 1 of 2. This will be the framework. The next one will be the design. All right? So just to start, what we're going to do is a horizontal navigation. I'm going to start from the very top of this and then do everything else later. So if you remember from the videos, the horizontal navigation is done using the UL tag. UL stands for unordered list. And remember, when we open a tag, we want to close it right away. So I have my unordered list there. Within my unordered list, it is a list, so we want list items. That is the tag LI. That stands for list item. And just because I know I want 3 of them, I'm just going to copy and paste 3 of those. I am then going to put some verbiage in here so we can see it reflecting on the stage over here. So I'm going to do 1, I'm going to do 2, I am going to do 3. Okay, now the next thing we need to do is to create a div, because this is something that we need to stylize. We need to do it not only aesthetically so it looks a certain way, but also position so it aligns a certain way. To do that, and how we're going to do everything here heretofore, is we're going to create a div. The div we know is called a divider, but we're using styles and a CSS sheet, so we're not just going to say div, we're going to give it an ID. We all know what ID means. It means identification. I'm going to go ahead and type that in there. I'm going to call it div menu because it is going to be our menu. Now you can see that I opened my div. I have a red tag down here because they want me to close my div. So now we have everything settled. I should be able to click on this first div and then my closing div will highlight as well. That's how you know everything is okay. A, there's no red numbers, and B, I can click on a div and it will be adjoining. Same thing with all open tags. Click on body and you can see that. I am going to clean this up a little bit because I know that I want it to be a certain way just for my mind's sake. And there you have it. Now, I could, as we discussed, make all of my styles, so anything that I want to do as far as styles and cascading style sheets, I could put up here in the header. We don't want to do that. We're going to link a style sheet. So what you're going to do is go and make a new document, you see here, and you want to choose CSS. That is the cascading style sheet. Once you click create, we have to do nothing here except save it. Now you're going to want to save this in the same exact location as your previous HTML file. So I'm just going to leave everything as is for now and just do a save as. And I do believe I'm going to have to find it. Okay, so Dropbox, you're going to want to save it in your Dropbox. You may not have this like I do already locally on your computer, which is okay. I am just going to call it main CSS and say save. Then once I have it saved in a good location, I'm going to close it and I'm going to come back to my original document. Now, if you remember again from the video and quickly from class, you have your properties over here. You want to go to the CSS Designer. So again, the CSS Designer, and under Sources, you click that plus sign. Clicking that plus sign gives us an option to create, to attach, or define. We went ahead and already made it, so we're going to go ahead and say attach. We're going to look for it. And it is going to be hopefully right where we left it. Main CSS, yes. So I'm going to hit OK. And you want to make sure you link it. Importing it will do nothing but put it in the header. We do not want that. We want to link it. That way we can link it to other sheets later. So just hit OK. You can see the moment that we did all that, instead of just having source code up here now, we also have main CSS. So I can just click between the two. Okay? So here we are in main CSS. If you remember from the video or not, to reference a div item or any type of ID that is on the source code, all we need is the ID name. So this is menu here. We gave it the menu name. When we go back to the main CSS, we're just going to hit the hashtag or pound, and if it's done correctly and everything is linked up, it should say menu. It should give you every type of ID that is on that HTML document. If it doesn't, it's okay. You can just start typing menu and do it manually. Once you have your ID, you have to do an open bracket and a close bracket. Just like everything else, it needs to be opened and it needs to be closed. That is so we can organize everything exactly how we want to. Okay? So I'm just going to go back and just recap. We have a div, we gave it an ID, we ID'd it menu. So everything that is within this div that we now call to, that includes the tag of UL and LI, if we call to it over here in the CSS, things are going to happen. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to change it aesthetically. So I'm going to do some font stuff. I'll do font size, let's say. I want my font size to be just roughly 14, nothing exciting. I'm going to move along and I'm going to change my font family. So I'm going to say font and then type family. And then I'm going to pick one. I'm going to pick this one here. And you can see nothing's changing, but the moment that I hit save and refresh file, save all, or is it going to be the live view? Oh, sorry. It's pertinent that you definitely have the live view clicked up here so you can actually see your changes occur. So I'm going to keep going here and give you a little bit more room to work. I did my font, I did a font family. This is just aesthetics here. So maybe I want to bold it. So I'm going to do font weight, I believe. And yes, I'm just going to say bold. And then finally I'm going to do, I'll give it a shadow just for funsies, just because you know what? I'm going to align it in the center too. So I'll do text align center. Why is this not? Oh, there we go. Okay. So if you're having troubles and it's not updating, just click through here. You'll see that you'll be able to click through either design or live, and we'll see if this now works as it updates. So text align, and then again you could do a shadow. This is kind of a neat thing. So I'm going to say text and type shadow. That's just going to give it a nice drop shadow. And all you need to do here is you can pick the color right away. I'll do like a weird gray. Which will be fine, but then you can also establish kind of like the distance, and you do that by doing the pixels. So I'm going to do 2px, and I think I have to do 3 of them, so 2px. Would that work or not? There we go. Yeah. Why it's not working, I don't know, but I'm just going to keep going. So you can see there that everything that I wanted to do to that menu, it's now bolded, it's got a different font, and I have a neat little drop shadow on it. So that's what that is. I'm going to preview it here just to show you. Preview in Safari. Save it, yes. Yes. And there you go. I still have these weird bullets, and it's still not aligned horizontally, but at least we're moving forward. So as I said before, now that we have this div, I can go to my source code here, and everything is done in a drill down capacity. So I have my div ID of menu, and then you remember there's other things I can do. Like I can mess with the body, I can mess with any type of p tag, just by simply over here in the CSS just saying body or by saying p. We're not going to do any of that now, but if it is a HTML tag item, like UL or LI, you don't need the pound sign or the hashtag sign. You just simply need to let the CSS know what div it's contained in. So the next thing I want to do is kind of work my way down into the UL, so into the unordered list. Not the specific items, but the actual list. So I'm going to go back to my CSS, and I'm going to say pound menu, so I'm saying I want to go to that div, and within that div, I want to go ahead and pick the unordered list item. Open it and close it. And then I'm going to do just some weird things. So I'm going to make sure the height And this, again, is just for the list. So this is for when we do the horizontal part of it. So I want to change the height to auto. The reason I'm setting that to auto is because if I want to change my font to, say, 72, I don't want to go back and keep changing the height of the unordered list. I want to make it auto so it adapts to whatever I put inside of that. I also want to add the padding in here, and I'm only going to do 8px and say 0. And that is quite simply all I'm saying is that I want the padding of the left and right, top or bottom, to be a certain one. Okay, and I'll elaborate on that in later classes, but for now, just go ahead and put your padding in there at that certain size. And I do not want any margins, especially in the list part of it. That's because I want this to go horizontally, if you remember. So I'm just going to say margin of a 0px. So now I'm going to go ahead and preview this. And you can see in doing so, just by doing some of those things with the height, that's not going to matter. I'll show you that in a second. But then the padding and the margin, everything's like real stacked on each other. I don't have any more bullets, so it just kind of cleaned it up for me. But you can see over here, when I click on UL, you see how I have just a little bit of, so that 8, the padding that I did was the 8 pixels. See how I just have a little bit of padding? So if I change that to 0, you can see now that it's directly on. If I can just get to the, but you can actually see how the 1 now has that blue line right above it instead of that little space. Okay, so next, as you could probably guess, if I go back to the source code, I've already dealt with the menu UL. Now I need to get this horizontal, and I do that through these list items. Okay, so I go back to the CSS, and just like I did before, I'm going to say pound menu and then just say list item. So now I'm actually talking about the individual listings versus that whole entire list. And what I'm going to do that is just very simply, and I just want this to pop up, I'm going to type display. And the idea is, how do I want that to display? All I have to do is pick inline. And the moment that I choose inline, you could probably assume what that means. It means they're going to display in a line. So just really quick, I'm going to show that to you. There you go. See, 1, 2, 3. So now they're in a nice little line for no other reason than because I said display those buggers in line. So when I go back to the source code here, the CSS, I don't want them to be that close to each other, right? I need some space in there. So I'm quite simply going to say, as we did before with that padding up here in the UL by saying 8 pixels, now I'm going to give it a different padding, but not in pixels, because our goal is for this to adapt, right? Like we did when I make it smaller and it just kind of goes. I'm going to say 5%. By saying 5%, it means there's always going to be 5% of whatever the distance is, no matter how big the screen is. So now when I click live here, do you see that? You see how there's a nice little distance? And then you also reflect it more if I do this in a preview sense. You can see that, see how this 5%. So right now the 5% is obviously larger because my screen is bigger, but then it gets smaller, but it still keeps a 5% space in between there. I'm going to keep going with some other little things before I end this video, because this is, as you can see right now, it's a horizontal list. Right now it is actually not any type of navigation. To do that, do you remember, it is the href, right? So I'm going to click A, href, and I'm going to leave it with no quote, nothing within the quotes right now. I'm just going to put that there so it actually makes it a link. And then, you know, once I open something, I have to close it. So you can see that that immediately became a hyperlink because it turned purple just like it does in a Word document or PowerPoint. So I'm going to do that for all of them. So again, linking is nothing more than a href and then I have to close my A. The A is called an anchor tag, right? So it's an anchor tag for a hyperlink reference. And whether or not you want to know those things or not, it's up to you. But I'm here to tell you. So I got my href, and I got it all closed out. What did I do wrong here? Oh, I didn't close it. So I'm going to say refresh, and there you go. So now I have 3 links, but it's ugly. I don't know how you feel about it, but right now I have purple with a line on it. I do not want any of that. But just like we did before, so I did menu to get to menu UL to get my list, my unordered list, then menu LI. Now I want to get to menu, and I have A in here because that's my anchor. You can always tell what specifically it's called because of the closing tag. So this isn't an ahref, this is an A. So you could probably deduce that for me to make any type of adjustments to my hyperlinks now, or my anchor tags, I have to do menu A. So I'm going to go over to my CSS now, and I'm going to say hashtag to get my div up. So within that menu div, I want to mess with A. Open and close it. And then the cool thing that I can do here is there's something called text decoration. There it is on the list there. I don't want that underline there, so I'm going to click text decoration and then say none. If you want to do something along those lines, you can. You could see the moment that you did that text decoration, and I'll show you again quick. You have options, right? You can do some of these things down here, a blink, an inherit. It's entirely up to you. I don't like to do that, so I'm not going to do that. But you see when I say text decoration done and I click to live, that underline now goes away. So we no longer have that underline there. So that's cool. I also don't like the color of purple, so what I can quickly and easily do is just type color, and just like we've done before, I'm going to do, well, because I have the shadow, I'm going to pick white just so it really shows the shadow. So I'm going to do white there, and I will, oh, let me just show you what this is first. I'm going to say live again. You see how it turned white, and now I can see my shadow behind. Probably not the best practice, but again, I wanted to show you that shadow. But here's something interesting. You see that when I click on this right now, you see that's my A. And see how little of a space there is around it? So if I'm a user, I now have to get right on top of that to click it. That's what's called a hit area. So what I want to do here, especially in this A thing, is I'm going to add some padding to that, just like we've done. And I want to make sure that it's all around. So I'm going to do, let's say, 8px. I'm going to do that 4 times because I'm going to say on the bottom, on the top, on the left, on the right. Right? So now when I go to live, and I see how it made it so much bigger around here? So now as the user, I don't need to get right on top of the words. I can kind of get close enough, and it'll just make it more efficient as far as a use point. Other things that you can do really quick, you could see, and again, when I did that live there, like nothing happens. You could just see it turns into a finger, but nothing great really happens. And then you can see that there is nothing really here explicit about it saying how I would mess any type of hover, because that's in CSS. You get to determine that yourself. So here again, I want to go to my menu. I'm going to say within that div, I want to get that A, but within that A, I want to go ahead and mess with the hover. So you just say A and then hover, and now I get to just jump right in here and do whatever I want. So I'm going to say color again. And I'm going to say orange. It's usually my go-to. So now I'm going to say when you hover over that, not only do you turn into a little finger like that, but I want you to turn orange. And there you go. See that? And then for those of you interested, you could also do, like if you wanted to say maybe a background of it, maybe you wanted to not only turn color but have a real distinct kind of background, you can just say background, I think it's background color. Yep, there it is. And I'll be really annoying about it just so you see it. You can see now that it does turn orange, and then it turns my background red. Really weird. I don't like it. Entirely up to you. So I'm going to get rid of that. So that is the video for the horizontal navigation. This will get you any type of horizontal. Oh, I just want to change that, please. This will get you any type of horizontal navigation for any website ever. Okay.